Hello, how are you? Happy full moon in Scorpio. To honor this full moon, I invited um, a past life specialist and author of this book, Who Do You Think You Are? Michelle Brook. And I am so excited to have her come here to talk about this beautiful book and have been sharing it with my clients and my friends. Um, so let's this works. Oh,
Hi.
hey! We had a Mercury retrograde moment. Thank you for your patience.
No worries. I'm happy to be here.
Whoa, so I am so excited to talk to you. As you can see, this book has been loved.
Oh, yes. Thank you for spending time with it. I'm excited to hear what you think.
Oh my gosh. I mean, yeah. So would you like to introduce yourself to the audience first?
Sure, no problem. My name is Michelle Brock, and I'm a spiritual life coach, and my specialty is past life regression. So what I do is I lead my clients through the experience of their own past lives, their past life memories, and then as a life coach, I help them figure out how to take those past lives and apply them to work for them in their life right now that they're living today.
Wow. Okay. That's a very condensed version of the very profound work that
Yeah.
you do.
My elevator pitch. No, thank you. Yeah, it is. It's really, really interesting work. You know, people are interesting. Their stories are interesting. You know, I've been a long, student of history. And so weaving in these kind of narratives to create someone's personal history is truly a passion of mine. And it's impossible to have a boring day at the office.
I know, right? It sounds very familiar to me.
Yes.
Well, I'll introduce myself just real quick for those members of your audience. So, I am Narayana Montúfar. This is my channel. Welcome. Um, I was sent this book by Michelle's publishing company, and I feel like it just came to me because it needed to. You know, I do work with the Akashic records,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was training the whole 2000. I mean, I've been an astrologer for many years. I've been reading charts since 2018, but 2023 for me was all about getting training to read the Akashic records, for which I went and investigated a lot of my past lives in Egypt, a lot of them actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so when I got this book, I started reading it, and like I was just so impressed by the I'm still impressed by the work you did, because like I feel like past lives, death, and we're talking about this in purpose on the full moon in Scorpio, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
because Scorpio is the sign of death and rebirth, and it teaches us that, which
Yes.
is like a very abstract theme, but that is constantly present in our lives. And I felt like you did such a good job with this book, and I've been recommending it to my clients, um, my friends, because it demystifies. I feel like it does a really good job at demystifying a concept that is hard to approach, that a lot of people are afraid of diving into, or that they just don't want to.
Right, right.
You'll kind of.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that, by the way. I really appreciate it. Not only recommending the book, but, diving into it, taking the time to read it and connecting with it personally, and then allowing us to share, my work with your, followers and all that. But yeah, the Akashic records are interesting in that the way that I understand them is that they're more of a kind of collective history that we can tap into. And there's a lot in my book about where we're going as a society and collectively too, as well. Because I think that we can focus on our own personal evolution all day, but we have to kind of look at how we are contributing to the collective growth that needs to happen as a society and as a humanity, that we're all personally responsible, you know, contributing what we can to, right, without getting overwhelmed. And yeah, so thank you. That was my intent, to demystify this topic that a lot of people think is so kind of woo woo. I wanted to kind of bring it down out of the rafters. You know, your past lives are not floating on a cloud somewhere, right? They're your real past. There were people, right? Human beings that had lifetimes that existed. And connecting with that can be a really profound experience.
Yes, and I mean, and another way that I can explain this book is that you think it's just going to be about past lives, but really it's more of like it will do so much more than that. Like, it will help you trust your intuition, which is a big thing, you know, because we all have it, but because we weren't trained or we didn't study when we were kids to do that. It will help you with that. It will help you meditate. It will help your imagination grow or expand, and to trust it, because at the end of the day, in the Akashic records, we need to do that as well. Definitely. You have to trust what your soul is telling you. And so, but first of all, just as an introduction to you, I kind of wanted to put you in the spotlight. Just purchase the book. It's a fabulous book. It really is great. Oh,
and I saw somebody question, where can I buy this book? I mean, it's pretty much available anywhere you buy books. It's out in the US. It's also out in the UK. It's being published in Australia, May 14th. And then there's a German language version coming in October as well. It's going to be in Portuguese in Brazil. What? So, but yeah, you can find it at your local bookstore. You can find it on Amazon. It's pretty much available if you look at, search it online. So
you're going global, lady.
I know. Well, you're the astrologer. You probably can see that. And I sent you my chart. You probably saw that, didn't you?
Well, so this is the thing. And I just want to give a segue into Michelle's personality a little bit. And she'll tell us, obviously she's worked thousands of people overcome trauma, sadness, depression through past life regression work. But I just want to put the spotlight on you a little bit, because you know your chart, which is pretty awesome. So tell us your big three.
So I'm a Libra sun, Libra rising, Taurus moon.
Okay. Yep. So, and this is why it's important to get an astrology reading. At first glance, with Michelle tells you, oh, I'm a Libra rising, Libra sun. Was it Taurus moon, right?
Yep.
You're like, okay, right? But no, if you pull her chart, which I have here, I would say, you know, you are like a Scorpio in disguise and on steroids, right? It's kind of like,
okay,
whoa.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. Okay.
So just for context, you know, even though that Michelle has all these Libra placements, and that Taurus moon is beautiful, by the way. Congrats on that.
I did well in this lifetime, right? Like being born at the time I was.
You're reaping the rewards of your past efforts, you know. The moon is exalted in Taurus, so that's the best moon sign you can get. But so what I'm seeing here in the chart is that even though Michelle is Libra rising and Libra sun, like I'm quoting her, she has a Pluto party. Okay. So she has Pluto in the 12th house, conjunct. Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth, regeneration, the shadow, trauma, but healing as well. So basically Pluto rules reincarnation. Yep. And Michelle has Pluto squeezed in between Venus. Oh, sorry, you're a Virgo.
No, so yeah, it's in my first house, Pluto, because it's in Libra, right?
Well, I don't use whole sign
Oh,
houses.
you don't use, okay. Okay.
I use a different system.
Yeah.
Um,
But I have Venus, Pluto, Sun, Mars all kind of squished together, right?
right. In the
Yeah.
tarot system that I use, they're in the 12th house,
Okay.
which the
Well, that makes sense.
12th house is the house of the subconscious mind.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That
Okay.
makes sense.
Mhm.
And so at a first glance, Michelle's like, oh, yeah, you know, it's all pretty and all these Libra placements, but all the Plutonian and also your North Node is in Scorpio. So this is part of your soul journey. Would you say that? How did you find this soul journey? How did you realize that you had this ability to help people dive into their past lives?
You know, through my own direct experience, looking back on it, I feel like there were always kind of little breadcrumbs and clues that I didn't necessarily notice at the time, specifically because of the way that I grew up. You know, I grew up in a family that didn't believe in past lives, right? In fact, my parents are very religious, and reincarnation is not, you know, an official tenet of the church that I grew up going to. Um, but you know, I reached this period of my life, and it was during my Saturn return, because you're an astrologer, I'll tell you, of course.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I wasn't, you know, everything was fine. I was healthy. I was, you know, going through the motions of life. It was kind of like a little bit of a spiritual depression. And you know, I ended up finding, you know, past lives and past life work. And I had a past life experience that completely changed the way that I look at everything. It was almost instantaneous. And I have looked at my birth chart the moment that I had that first one. I'm kind of like, yeah, that seemed kind of meant to be. But it was this kind of explosion of awareness, is the way that I can describe it. That all of a sudden, everything made sense. It was like all the little messages came clicking into place. And, you know, and life had this incredible purpose and meaning, and there was a profound, like, you know, realization that there is something after we die, because there's something before we're born, right? That the cycles of life and death never stop. And so it changed the way I looked at everything, but it changed a lot of the choices that I made about the way that I chose to live my life and how I chose to show up for myself and show up for others. It's not like I was a bad person, but I definitely had to kind of fix, you know, some things that allowed me to be more authentic in the way that I live my life. So that was how I got into this work as a life coach. I really want people to understand that you can transform your life anytime you choose. You don't have to die to reincarnate. You can reincarnate now, you know. And so I look at that moment where I discovered past lives as almost a complete rebirth. You know, I didn't die, thank goodness. Some people, you know, some things do kill you, but they can still make you stronger, because reincarnation brings you back. But yeah, that was when I was about in my early 30s, at the end of my Saturn return. And I've been doing this ever since. And I feel like I get to pay that experience forward, you know, every single day with the work that I do. And my intention with this book was to not just have you read about past lives, because I think that there's a lot of work out there that does that. I wanted to give you a chance to experience it yourself with the book. And so I walk you through the process of how to connect with your past lives and create that intention to really connect with your own awareness of your soul's journey, and then give you ideas about how to use that as a tool to navigate the often stormy waters of the life we're living right now. So yeah.
Fascinating. Well, thank you for this. And you know, I have my notes. Um, without giving too much, because you know, I want people to get this book because I love it and I will keep recommending it. But I just wanted to read some of the. I like the way that you structured it, in which you're first explaining everyone why it is not great to identify with so many parts of ourselves that are just in this incarnation, so we can get a bigger picture of who we truly are based on our soul path.
Yeah.
So I'll just read some. I'll go section by section. I have a lot of Virgo placements, so I like to plan things.
I love it.
And then I would like to live at the end just for you, but you don't have to go super crazy or anything, but just explain to us, like, or just go over this quotes that I just loved.
Sure.
So in the first section, Michelle, basically, she explains how to use this book. I will not talk about that, but the first section is about honoring the past. And so in this honoring the past, she explains to you, she helps you realize, actually, through meditations, interactive exercises that are really fun. Actually, the mirror one fascinated me, to explain to you why you should not be overly identified with some of with your name, with your race, with your ethnicity. And so when you are not your name, I'm going to skip that because that's pretty obvious. Like, of course, your name is important, but you're not your name. Obviously, you had many other names in the past. I'm going to skip that for the purpose of timing and to get this going. But when in the section that you are not your looks, I felt so fascinated by the way you talked about that. And so I'm going to quote her. Many people struggle to accept their body, but the irony is that the body you have right now, the one you were born with, was the body you chose in this life. Yes, you chose all of the circumstances of your birth before you reincarnated, including the way you look. That's like mind-blowing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen so many people experience a past life memory, and the first thing that strikes them is like, I have different color hair, I have different features, I have a different body type, I'm, taller, or, I say like, I'm a really strong, person, whereas they might be slimmer in this life. So yeah, that whole kind of concept of identity. And I actually refer to them as kind of false identities: your name, your looks, your gender, your race, and all of that. So yeah, that's a profound moment. Yeah.
That's very profound because, like, then you say so many of us fall victim to over identifying with our looks or even obsessing over them. I mean, big time, right? Which can create a false identity that prevents us from being connected to the part of us that is not our body.
Yeah.
Your soul is the real you, not your body. I mean, which for so many of us I grew up with a lot of low self-esteem. So for so many of us to realize that, and also you were talking about Saturn, that we're going to grow older no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah.
That really helps you realize that, yeah, you get older, or maybe you would prefer to look a different way, but this is the body you chose because that's the body that's going to help you grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And also too, one of the things I talk about in the book is to remind everyone that standards of beauty throughout history and in different cultures are very subjective, right? Like what we feel is accepted, look wise. And I think that that's something that in this culture, I know a lot of men deal with this too, but there's something very specific that we as women have to deal with trying to be put into a certain kind of standard. And, I think that there's a lot of conversation right now in, the zeitgeist about redefining what beauty is, right? Redefining what looks are accepted or not. But I think that a lot of us have struggled with that in the past. So I kind of wanted to give this as a tool to people who might look in the mirror and be comparing themselves to others or not feel good enough. I wanted to give them a chance to kind of delve into their past lives, to give them that perspective, because it helps your your self-esteem. It helps the way that you think about yourself.
And also, it gives you a completely different access to empathy for others.
Yes.
Right? It's like I have seen past lives of mine where I've seen myself as Persian, Egyptian, and very recently I saw future life where I am a white male.
Interesting. Okay.
So I think you touch on the book on that, on how like when you see that you've been every race and that you've lived in every continent, there's like a magic moment that creates empathy for humanity in general, not for anyone that's like Asian, North American, Latino, whatever, right? So that's what, for me, that was the magic moment where it's like, whoa, it's access to a type of empathy that otherwise you wouldn't be able to find with like a short vision of like, this is the only life I have.
Definitely. Yeah. It's all about empathy, compassion, understanding, and being able to connect to others' experience in a more profound way. Definitely. Yeah.
And then you also touch on gender, which is like a huge thing right now. It is, astrologically speaking, the whole thing about gender started being more and more highlighted since Uranus entered Taurus.
Okay, that makes sense.
Uranus, the planet of revolution, rebellion, which we are seeing very active right now, and Taurus is a feminine sign ruled by Venus, but we're completely changing the way we see feminine energy, masculine energy as well. But so I just wanted to read this. It's kind of intense, but again, it's the full moon in Scorpio, so we're getting deep and intense here.
I love it. I appreciate that.
Being, let me see, it's kind of long, so I'm going to try to paraphrase a little bit, but being born a boy across space and time is a distinct experience from being born a girl. And each has its own challenges and lessons. This is still true. I don't have to tell you that the female or feminine experience often comes with oppression, less freedom, fewer opportunities, and violence. Sexism is nearly as old as time itself. And something that I love, because I'm a witch, much of this inequity has blamed on biology. Men are often considered to be stronger and have more stamina, and women are equipped to give birth and be caregivers. These stereotypes have long been used to perpetuate the patriarchy. And then you go on, like, and this has happened to me too. So I like love this part, which like through the Akashic records and you through your past life regressions have seen a lot of women go back to past lives where they were burned, where they were raped, or they were like traumatized. And you say that this can be carried and is carried through present incarnations. And so how can a past life regression or past life work can help heal this?
Yeah, that's a really fascinating. And by the way, all the witches that are back, thank you for being back. We're still doing our work, right?
Yes.
I make bad jokes all the time, but I always tell people like the Spanish Inquisition didn't go so well for me, but that's okay. I'm back. I'm still a witch. I think that, first of all, my first thought is that like the idea of the modern witch, which is the woman who rejects the patriarchal, standards that have been placed upon us, is a huge conversation we're having right now. And it's part of why I really wanted to include this in the book, because when you look back at the past, and I do have men that have past lives that remember that they're women, right? And women that being men, and today we understand that there are more gender expressions that go beyond just the binary cisgender, right, system, right? But looking at your past lives and seeing that there is a history of oppression for women, we can look back and see how far we've come, but also how much work we still have to do, because it puts it in the context. We understand that, is this human nature? Is this societal? Where's this coming from? It's kind of able to frame the narrative in the course of history to understand how history is impacting us in our lives today, right? They always tell us that, you know, if we want to know what happens in the future, we have to study history, right? And that really inspires me, looking at history as the wisdom of the past, where we learn what works, where we learn what patterns are repeating, and how do we get off of that hamster wheel, you know. And I do believe that the modern witch, and like I said, I include a lot of my, you know, binary gender male friends in that category as well, you know, is anybody, like I said, who rejects the systems of power, patriarchy, supremacy, oppression, right? I believe that if everyone everywhere understood how reincarnation actually works and what it's all about, that we're here to learn and grow and how to be better, we would more naturally create a society that features equality, including gender equality, racial equality, right? Like freedom to be whoever you want to be, because understanding that we're all the same. We're a soul in a body currently on a journey that we're all on, which is over many lifetimes to learn and grow. So, you know, delving into the past lives, the way that it heals that is it gives it perspective. Also, too, sometimes people are carrying specific wounds from past life traumas that are manifesting as limiting belief systems, fears, right? A lot of people feel stuck and held back, where, you know, understanding a lot of the ways that we're held back are often due to the power of our own minds, right? Mm-hmm. And how powerful the unconscious can be in ruling our thoughts and our behavior. So, you know, that's kind of my thing about how past lives can help heal that. But I'm really glad you connected with that part of the book, specifically the gender part, because I think it's an important conversation that we're having today that's really relevant.
Yeah, and we will continue to have it um, until we realize the truth
Yeah.
of how we've been men, we've been women, we've been Black, we've been Asian, we've lived everywhere, and so because we all come from the same source,
Okay.
and so we are all just different experiences for the source to have. But I just wanted to finish this section with saying something, because I've seen this in my Akashic work. Very recently, I've had a lot of women come that are being called to remember their witchcraft, that are being called to remember who they were, and how, like, the powerless feeling that they have now has something to do with the past.
Yes.
And they're being given very specific pointers on how to go back to that magic, right? Very specific. But it says, women have been feared and misunderstood, judged by their looks, stoned to death for imagined crimes, and burned as witches. I have worked with a few women who have past lives that feature this kind of oppression and violence, and many were carrying unconscious fears about speaking their truth or stepping into their power from those memories. Uncovering these fears gave the women a chance to reclaim their agency, because they were able to see that even though they had endured these crimes long ago, they had a chance to live a new narrative. That's profound.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's beautiful. So thank you for writing that.
Thank you. Thank you for highlighting it. You know, but it's something that I deeply believe in, because I've seen it happen so many times with my clients. And, you know, like I said, how just profoundly healing this process can be. And then once we're healed of what's holding us back, then we can create whatever future, you know, that the future is limitless, truly, if we're not held back by our past. So that's kind of why I wrote a book about past lives that's actually about creating the future. It sounds a little bit counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and then the next section is like, you are not your thoughts. Whoa, that's massive, because there's a whole conversation that needs to be had about that I'm very passionate about that I'm not going to go into here because I'll just start ranting.
Okay.
But when we think something, whether it's good or bad, we think that that's us.
Yeah.
Or we feel bad for having an intense thought, or we feel bad for having a desire.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take on that? Like, are we bad because we have bad thoughts sometimes? Are we mean? Are we bad people?
Yeah, what you touched on is exactly right. Like, it's one of those things that is a profound truth that we are not our thoughts, right? And the book was inspired by a practice that is actually tied to ancient yogic tradition called neti neti, which is like, I am not this, I am not that. So the idea of self-inquiry and the way that we can kind of question our, you know, identities in order to discover that they're false identities. I kind of wanted to take that concept and make it like palatable, right? Like, what if you started to realize that you're not your thoughts, right? And that is something that a lot of people realize through meditation practice or having these moments where it's like, who is the I that is thinking the thoughts, right? And so once you start to strip that away as an identity, you actually can control your narrative. If you are someone who has racing thoughts or ruminate about things, you can kind of stop yourself and be like, okay, where is this coming from? And if it comes from a past life, you know, that is often hard to do because it's so deeply unconscious. So I wanted to kind of give people a tool to kind of help them not be a prisoner to their thoughts, right? Or swept up in their thoughts as their identity. Or like you were saying, judging yourself for your thoughts. Am I a bad person? Right? No, you are not, because you are not your thoughts. You're having thoughts that are negative about your current experience, right?
So I think that's one of the most difficult mindfulness practices.
Yeah.
To separate yourself from your thoughts.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's a practice. It's like you said.
It's a practice.
It's not perfect.
But yeah. Because also these thoughts are coming from somewhere, right? Yeah. From media, from something you heard, or from a past life. Which in your book you say that if you have a recurring negative thought, it could be a response to something that happened to you in a past life.
That's right.
So therefore, it needs to be healed. Am I right?
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, so sorry guys, please don't be mad at me. But there's a section that I thought it was really interesting, and not to make anyone feel bad, but I do see a lot of people putting on their Instagram profile, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a mom dog. Okay, so you're not your relationships. That's the next section of this book. Mm-hmm. Yep. That's a tough one. And you know what? Like, we don't need to make ourselves feel bad about that. But the South Node is in Libra. So yep. That is a conversation in the astrology community that's happening on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't define yourself through your relationships, because at the end those are shifting all the time.
Yeah, mm-hmm. That's right. That's right.
So I love how the way you express that. So if you are seeing yourself through other people's eyes, then that means that you don't have like and correct me if I'm wrong, like you don't have a real connection to your essence. Is that correct?
Right. And also too, I think that a lot of us kind of feel trapped in, it was your roles and your relationships. So the roles that we play, the way that we show up for each other, right? That this is what defines me. And then there's the people that kind of look, well, I'm a mother and that defines me. But what if being a mother isn't your journey in this life, right? And so comparing yourself to others, or some people are like, I'm a wife, and what if, you know, you haven't been lucky enough to meet the soulmate that's meant to be your divine partner in this life yet, right? So, you know, kind of looking at your identity beyond your roles kind of helps you, put the focus back on yourself. Yes, we do play these roles, and relationships are incredibly important. You've seen my Libra stellium, right? So, but at the same time, like learning that we don't have to let these roles limit us to and define us is, I think, a really important thing to discover.
And I think that's what a lot of people are struggling with right now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
And hey, we all see ourselves like that, right? Like,
yeah.
But it's very important to separate us from the roles that we play, right, as a healing mechanism, actually. I love this one. This section like really spoke to me as somebody who struggled with a lot of depression in my younger years. You are not your suffering. Literally, that almost made me cry. And so I'm going to read this. We struggle through hardships, pain, and suffering because of what these teach us. Mm-hmm. This is not easy, but this is how we grow. So this is kind of like a sensitive place to be, because like, it's not that we want a spiritual bypass, right?
Yep.
It's not that we want to say like you were saying, what doesn't kill you make you stronger, but you have to like also, it's a fine line between owning your pain and overcoming it. That's what I mean.
Yes. Yes, that's well said.
Right. So this is how we gain wisdom, even if sometimes in a trial by fire, because we learn by doing. We need to have firsthand experiences in order to really absorb the lessons. This is the way of reincarnation, the point of returning to Earth in a new body again and again. We want to evolve and grow. Mm-hmm. What would you say, Michelle, to somebody who has had, and I know that the concept of karma is impregnated here, and the concept of karma not as like bad karma, mm-hmm, but as like past learnings. What would you say to somebody who's had a really tough reincarnation right now, like, and that are struggling a little bit with the concept of, I chose this life, I chose this path, I chose this pain and suffering because I knew that it was going to help me grow. What would be your words of encouragement for them?
And I'm really glad that you bring up the concept of karma, because I think that that's one of those kind of new agey terms that people kind of throw around without really understanding what it means in a practical way. And I think that there's a lot of people that are also afraid that if something bad happens to them, that's because they did something bad in a past life, right? That there's a penance, or you're paying for your evil deeds in a past life. And, you know, I haven't found that to be true. It's a lot more compassionate of a process than that we're here to learn and grow. And so we challenge ourselves. And it isn't something that I recommend to tell people that are going through an enormous life challenge, be like, well, your soul chose this. Okay, so just suck it up, right? It's for your growth and learning. We want to be, you know, compassionate, but at the same time, never judge another person's karma. Be like, oh, well, they must have done something bad in a past life. Sometimes it's actually the opposite, that they're more evolved, or they're here to volunteer to give us a lesson, or give themselves a lesson, give others an opportunity to step up and grow, right? So past life work can help you see the bigger picture. You can open the curtains wider on the window and then see, oh, okay, this is my entire journey, rather than just focusing on that one moment. And when you are going through something that's extremely challenging, and I've been through my share in this life, you know, a lot of people ask me how I become a life coach, and my snarky answer is not in a classroom, the school of life classroom. But you know, that perspective can alone be very healing, and the idea that sometimes our pain has a purpose, right? And that we're not alone and abandoned, that there's this wisdom, this overarching wisdom to the way that our life unfolds, you know. But yeah, it's not that bad things happen to good people was something that bothered me a lot, again, Libra, when I was younger. But the way that reincarnation works really explains how that is possible. And the karma is, like I said, it's more about bringing things into balance. That's what the word actually means in Sanskrit. It means to bring into balance. So we learn and grow over many lifetimes, having experiences. Sometimes we get to have lifetimes where we get to relax a little bit and be joyful and enjoy being in a body, right? Other lifetimes where, you know, hitting the pavement hard with a shovel, digging deep, and, you know, trying to learn and grow and evolve and become better humans. So
yeah, yeah, that was one of my favorite areas, because sometimes I think in the spiritual community, and that's why astrology can be very helpful, but it has to be managed correctly as well.
yeah.
Because like if you dwell too much on your shadow, this is a Scorpio full moon, you have to dig deep in your shadow, but you have to dig deeper to overcome it at the end of the day. Not constantly get into that like victim mentality of like, this happened to me and I can't overcome it.
And one of the things that I think is amazing about how astrology crosses over with the work that I do in past lives is because it's a study of cycles, right? So if somebody's going through a challenging cycle, I'm sure one of the things that you counsel them on is like, well, it's going to be over at a certain point. The pressure will release, but while you're in it, here's how this is what we're supposed to kind of work on. You know, the past lives are a little bit of a macro cycle, but you know, astrology gives you a glimpse into kind of these internal cycles that are constantly turning, you know, cycles of nature, life, death, rebirth, the movement of the planets. It's amazing how it all seems connected, but as a practical tool to help you navigate life, I think it's about knowing, you know, that this is going to be a period of time that this is what it's about. And once people can kind of see that and know that, it's like, oh, this isn't going to last forever, right? We're not here just to suffer all the time, right? So
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just gonna read a comment here. Loving this, truly insightful, takes on thirst concepts and depth into deeper comprehension on this topic. Incredibly grateful.
Aww.
Thank you, lovely.
Thank you for that.
And then even in the difficult lifetimes, we're able to find joy. It is up to us as well to take responsibility for our joy. I love that.
I love that too. That's exactly spot on.
Yeah, all signs have light and shadow, which shows which to embody. Exactly. Just like in astrology, every planet has a light and a shadow, even Venus.
That's right.
And even Jupiter has a lot of shadow actually in mythology.
Definitely.
And every zodiac sign has light and shadow. And so you know, I love this past life regression stuff. But you know, what I find very interesting is like, you do the past life regressions, I do the Akashic records. This weekend, while there was this crazy Jupiter Uranus conjunction, which is like genius and massive, I did a quantum hypnosis session. We have different practices, but we're all go to the same place, which is like seeing yourself in a big picture perspective as a soul.
Yes. Many pathways to one truth.
Exactly. And so in I'm getting closer to the end, but in this thought-provoking book, because I love that, because we at school, with religion, with maybe our parents, whoever, or the society we grew in, they make us afraid of death.
Yes.
They make us afraid. They make us think that this is it. You have to run. You have to be successful. You have to get married and get the dog and the kid and do this. And if you don't do that, you're not going to be happy. Like there's a certain formula to make you think that you only have this lifetime. And so I know that for a fact that that's not true, because I've seen so many of my past lives and so many other people like past lives saying too. But for somebody that hasn't totally tried that yet, I love this section where it says, what if this lifetime wasn't the only lifetime? What if that is not an ending? What if birth isn't a beginning? What if both are merely a continuation of an ongoing cycle of life, death, and rebirth that you have experienced again and again? What if you already have been born and died many times over? So let that sink in, right? Like, let that sink in. And then all of a sudden, you're no longer afraid of getting older and dying. How have you seen that taking flight for your clients, Michelle?
Well, it started with the profound healing that it gave to me around my own journey of grief. I actually lost my mother to cancer when I was still 2. I wasn't even 3.
Wow.
And that was such a formative experience. And then, you know, once I was able to kind of see that, gosh, there's a bigger picture. And I'd been with my mother before. I'll be with her again. We're still connected. So I find that that actually is incredibly healing for people who are dealing with grief, which are all of us. Death is a part of life. But yeah, I work with a lot of people who are on very intense grief journeys, or I've worked with people who are transitioning out of their body in this life. You know, how can I more consciously prepare for that inevitable transition? People who do have, like, you know, terminal illnesses that are looking to kind of see, like, well, you know, yeah, there's a bigger picture. How much peace does that give somebody who's sitting there wondering, like, you know, what comes after this, right? So that chapter alone could have been its own whole book, and maybe someday it will be.
You should. You
Yeah.
have to.
I'm working on my second book right now, which is actually about the relationships and roles. So it's a kind of a soulmate book, but which is also a very deep, deep topic. But yeah, I like that you connect to that particular chapter with the death, because I do think that it's something that we all have to deal with in one way or another, not just with our own death, with like losing loved ones. And, you know, past lives are a really incredible healing experience as far as understanding how death works. It's not the end. It's a new beginning.
No,
It keeps going.
I'm gonna put a little bit of my own experience, and this is actually hard for me because as a Scorpio, I am very private, and I've been just learning to open myself more and more. I have my sun conjunct Uranus, and it's really cool because it makes me a rebel, but it wasn't that cool when because I started losing my family members when I was 14.
Wow. Yep.
And it is a trend that keeps continuing. Just to be totally open about it, in this past last eclipse, my cousin passed.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Thank you. But what I really wanted to share about that is that I talk to my loved ones through the Akashic records. They're around. My dad's probably here right now. Like, they're not gone. Like we have a tendency to think. We can connect with them. They want to connect with us, in fact.
Yeah.
They're still there. And like you said, you'll see your mother again. You know, you play different roles. Maybe you'll be your mother, your friend, your sister. And so that gives us a bigger perspective on the soul journey.
Yeah, you know, a lot of people talk about ancestral work and how the importance of that, particularly when it comes to shadow work or family patterns that we inevitably pass on, you know, through parent to child, or even in our communities. That past lives opens that wider, that, yeah, you have these ancestors, but your story with those ancestors transcends just this bloodline and this time period as well. So it actually is, it gives you a deeper connection, you know, not just to like the soulmates that you're with in this life, but like your whole ancestry. It like I said, it brings history and place and time period in perspective in a deeper way. So it doesn't replace ancestry work. It deepens it. It widens it. It makes it more global, right? That we are all connected as one large global family through our various experiences on different continents and different time periods. And that is, to me, such a mind-blowing yet incredibly profound and healing concept.
Absolutely.
And one that I think we need in the world today more of.
Oh, yeah.
So
we
much
need everybody
divisiveness.
to look at their past lives.
Yeah,
That's what we need.
for sure.
That's what they should teach you in school, not a bunch of things.
I did have a woman I met in a bookstore where I was doing a signing who taught Eastern philosophy in a high school, and she said that she was going to use this book as part of the curriculum. So I was really excited about that. As someone who has a high school son myself, it's like, so yeah, maybe that was an intention what you said, but I think that it is a book that is written almost for anyone to understand in a certain way. I didn't want it to be for someone who is, taking advanced courses on reincarnation theory or like whatever, just people who are curious and open and wanted to know more about it. So
totally. And I love that about school because, like, for example, like kids who haven't yet been like bombarded with all this media and all these ads and all this stupidity.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm very against that.
I agree with you.
They're open.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So if you start talking to a child about past lives, they're going to have a broader perspective and they're going to have more curiosity and won't be so stigmatized about the whole situation.
Definitely.
So now there's a section. Oh, I forgot to say that we're in the future section now. But
okay.
Anyway, the area that says changing your point of view. I have worked with many people who become moved, often to the point of tears, when they realize how meaningful and vast their existence is after having past life experiences. There is often an immediate change to their confidence and the energy they exude when they realize they are wise, eternal souls and not just a body. That happened to me, by the way. Big time.
Yeah.
Big time.
I'm so glad to hear. Yeah.
Because like when I realized what a bad bitch I was in the past, it was like,
I always tell that, like, stop playing small. You're like this wise, eternal, ancient being who's overcome so much, right? Like that you have all these stores of ancient wisdom that we need to use to navigate our lives today. And what if those stores are just right under the surface in your unconscious mind? I wanted to help people kind of find where to find that. And yeah, we like step into their power and step into their purpose and their confidence. So I'm so glad that happened.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And then I love this last sentence. You are boundless, everlasting, and infinite. I feel like I'm going to put that in my refrigerator, if you don't mind. Like,
I don't mind at all.
It's just like that reminder that you are an infinite being and that you don't need to be this, you don't need to be that. You just are love.
Yeah.
There's a section about that, but I don't want to take too much of your time. Love is your purpose and your mission. And that's hard to understand in this world where there's so much suffering, but at the end of the day, that is what gets us through the hard times. There's this spiritual misconception about that if you're spiritual you have to be suffering what other people are suffering. Not necessarily. You have to be elevating the vibe and reminding people that we're infinite
and holding space for others who are suffering from a place of empathy and compassion, right? It's not about like delving into their sorrow, but kind of holding that space collectively for each other is a form of love, right? Like we love our family and our lovers and our friends and coworkers, but there's a way to kind of hold space in love for communities, and including the collective, people who don't look like us, people who were born on a different continent, or people who have practiced a different religion or have different beliefs than us, right? That there's a way to kind of hold that space with love, and past lives really kind of help you see that, like, I am another you, right? We are all connected. And once you realize that truth, then your behavior changes, the way that you show up for other people, the way you show up for yourself. And having gone through that transformation myself and then watching my clients go through it, I really wanted to share how profoundly impactful that process is with everyone who's willing to read my book. So,
you know, like in my experience, doing past life work has been one of the most healing practices that I've found, even as an astrologer, you know. People come to me, and if I see that they have a lot of big karma, and again, not bad karma, okay, it's just things that need to be resolved.
Karmic issues, yes.
You need to do a past life regression. You need to do a bunch of them. You know, it's just what it is. But the last chapter on your book, it's called "It's Not." We already went like, what are all the things that you're not? Okay, so you're not this, you're not your race, you're not your ethnicity, you're not your thoughts, your fears, your story.
So who are you?
Who are you? It's not who you are, but who you can become. And I just wanted to leave that open without me reading anything, because this is like kind of like the end of your masterpiece. And so,
oh, thank you.
How can we figure out who can we become? How can our past lives help inform this incarnation?
You know, I want people to understand that the future is not determined, right? That, of course, certain things happen, right? Certain things are out of our control, but we always have a choice, right? We always have a choice how we can respond or react. And so once we understand that we are actively creating our future with our choices, we can feel empowered to those choices. And particularly when we understand the perspective of all of our past lives, see the choices we've made before, see what works, see what doesn't work, decide who we want to be, right? We chart the course, right? I talk about this in the book about the word navigation, right? That's like deciding where, picking a point where you want to be, and then choosing a path how to get there. So, you know, again, this really is a book about past lives, but it's a book about the future and who we want to become and what we want to step into as a future, both personally and collectively. Because again, I believe that all of the changes that will ultimately happen societally in the collective have to begin with us as individuals, right? So if we change, and anytime we heal or change, that vibration is something that we share with the people around us, the community, and eventually the world at large. So it starts with the work that we do on our own, and how that moves forward out. The ripple effects can be infinite.
Fantastic. And well, congratulations on this again.
And I just saw someone has a question. Is the book on Audible? Yes. I narrated the book on Audible. A lot of people are really enjoying the Audible version because there's a lot of meditations and journal exercises in it. So if you want to kind of listen to the meditations rather than read them, I do highly recommend getting the Audible version as well. Yeah.
Right. Oh, I didn't know that the meditations, and it's your voice.
It's my
awesome.
voice. I got to narrate it. It was so much fun.
Awesome, because a lot of the times you don't get to do that.
I'm excited. Yeah.
So, and just to end, I'm going a little back to what you said, that the future, it hasn't been created. This is a concept that's very important to talk about in astrology as well. Because like a lot of people that haven't really dig deep into astrology, they think that it's like guessing the future, and they think that it's all written in the stars. Okay, I disagree too with that vision. I think that free will is one of the most important universal laws to be reminded of.
Yes.
And and that we can co-create our future. But like, that's the point of this book, going to your past so you can honor it, and then moving to a future with more openness and perspective, and with a healing self, which is what you're going to need if you're going to create your future, so your past doesn't inform your future. But I just wanted to read a couple of messages here that we received. All that was may now seem like it's lost until we know we'll meet again. Is how I feel about grief after my experience with past lives. Yes,
Wow. Love that. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Peace starts at home makes so much sense with the context you're giving it. Justice starts with us individually and how we behave with others and ourselves. Thank you, Michelle and Narayana. Of course. Thank you so much. I feel like that is like such a good way to go. I feel so blessed to have heard you both talk today. Thank you. Thank you
for delving into my book so deeply and being willing to share about it, and all of your thoughtful, insightful questions and all of the quotes that you picked. I really enjoyed. Thank you so much. I can't thank you enough.
No, of course. I mean, I feel like we're in this together, you know, like for me, we're both of service, and like,
yeah.
For me, my quote is changing one life at a time.
Yeah.
So thank you for wanting to do this and taking so much of your time. Like, I know it took a little while, but like, I like getting deep, and like, I really feel like this Scorpio full moon, the next 2 weeks, right? Like after this full moon, before the new moon in Taurus, which could be like a major renaissance, personal renaissance for the soul. I feel like that the next 2 weeks are a really good time to get deep into that, like get deep into the soul work, because that's what Scorpio does. It teaches us that without that, we can't be reborn. We can't, you know, because of Western thinking, we think that, oh, it's just success and this and this and that. But that's not true. Like, the more successful people, and I'm not talking about career or money or anything like that, but success to me is people who are happy, living a life of being present and feeling joy, is because they've done the work of like healing the past and healing themselves. So
I love that. Well said. Well said. Yeah.
Thank you
for the work you do as well.
I appreciate you, and congratulations on writing your second book.
Oh, work in progress. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course, and you know, I might reach out to you again if you don't mind. I'm also writing my second book now.
Yay.
And that Saturn return story seemed really appealing to me.
Okay.
So maybe we will get to collaborate again.
I would love that. I absolutely love your energy. I love how we connected, and thank you so much for, having me on.
Of course. Thank you so much, and we'll stay in touch.
Okay. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Definitely divine timing. Divine timing. Incredibly grateful to have been able to download this critical dialogue at this time of need. Of course. So thank you for being here. I appreciate you. And again, this is the book Michelle wrote. Who Do You Think You Are? An interactive journey through your past lives and into your best future. If you are watching this and you like this, please comment. Just give me a heart or anything that you thought about this live. We want this live to get to other people who could really benefit from this work. And so thank you for being here, and I will see you soon. Happy full moon in Scorpio. Bye. Hi. So good to see you, babes. Bye.